Itong kagamahan ng provincial pinangaluhan sa ito ang halangdong gobernador Ari Samentado sa iyang paghatag o higayon sa kapulisan sa probinsya sa Bohol nga makapaabot sa mga programa o impormasyon kabahin sa mga kalambuan o nahitabo sa atong probinsya. Mayong buntag anak ng tanan.
Mayong buntag. Thank you, Colonel. Okay, so dilik ta maglangan. Arina ta sa atong question and answer portion with the Bohol media. Kay murag nindot kayo ang topic nato karang adlaw, no? Timely kayo. First to ask, please welcome Sir Edwin Sarong. Mayong buntag, Sir Edwin. Once again, welcome to the Capital Reports as always. We really appreciate your attendance.
Thank you, Ma'am Janet. Good morning, everyone. Edwin Sarong gikan sa RBN 100.9 FM. Thank you. Ari ko mangutan una sa ato ang OPSWD. Na-mention man nimo, ma'am, no? Good morning, ma'am. Nga healthier and safer sa ato ang mga kabatanunan. Doon na ba may gihimo sa inyong buhatan, ma'am, nga programa para sa ato mga kabataan ngadto mismo sa mga tugaran sa mga eskwelahan? Kabahin sa imong gisgutan nga healthier and safer?
Okay, good morning, sir. So, in terms of providing safety, no? So, we, sa buhatan lang namo, we are the Secretariat of the Provincial Council on the Protection of Children, of which Attorney Jess is also an active member. So, sa ato ang buhatan, and of course, sa atong Provincial Council on the Protection of Children, atong ipakadakan ang capacity building. Sa atong mga teachers, sa atong mga parents, sa atong mga, of course, sa atong mga kabataan. Not only in terms of protection, but also sila po, nga simbako sila po'y mabiktima, they can also be provided with services, no? So ako lang i-share sa inyo that Provincial Social Welfare Office under the Residential Services Division has 3 shelters. That is the Stimulation Therapeutic Activity Center, of which is catering to children with disabilities nga gaedad og 2 to 14 years old.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, no? Mura man og gipangandama nato ng mga panghitabo ako doon na natay mga shelter nga inana. Ang abot na ipasabot is to prevent this incident recently nga nitabo dito sa Tacloban.
Okay. So natay mga capacity building lagi ana, sir, no? Sang atong mga nakana bang natay advocacy ba? Natay advocacy nga sila mga children will also be responsible.
Yes.
They also have accountability at the same time if ever naa sila yung mga salaon. Example, we have the Bohol Youth Home karon. No, ang Bohol Youth Home serves as a residential facility, rehabilitation center specific for children in conflict with the law. Kaning atong gihisgutan karon siguro ang topic, no? So naataan na siya karon. But this time, kaning mga bata ang atong gi-shelter are those katong nagyong mga in conflict.
Okay, what I mean, ma'am, is prevention. Parang aril ako, direction lang ko, sorry, ma'am, aril ako sa Department of Education. Good morning, Attorney.
Good morning, sir.
Sa tibok lalawigan sa Bohol, usang lungsura nga naghimo og educational summit.
What do you mean by educational summit, sir? Because speaking of educational summit, kami sa Division of Bohol, sa division level, monthly, we give technical assistance man sa among schools district supervisor na may gitawag og Division Executive Conference.
Okay.
Inighuman ana ang bawat PSDS or Public School District Supervisor, magkandak pod na sila sa ilang district level nga executive conference with the presence of their school heads. Then, kung ma-cascaded na sa school head, ang bawat school head na pod sa matag eskwelahan, magkandak na pod na sila og ilahang administrative meeting in order to cascade the information coming from the top administration.
Okay, baguhay pa lamang, no, ang Garcia Hernandez naghimo educational summit.
Yes,
Na-appreciate to sa uban nga mga lalawigan, sa uban nga mga kalusaran, especially sa ato ang mga kadagkuan diri sa Department of Education. Ilang na-appreciate kayo to kay nahisgutan tanan kung unsay mga problema gikan sa mga kabatanunan, sa mga parent o teachers. Nahisgutan to tanan para ma-prevent ang unsay mga panghitabo soon parehas na hitabo, baguhay pa lamang dito sa Tacloban. Dito pa naman daan, dito na sila gahimo at tugod sa ilahang mga assessment. Wala pa itong mga panghitabo dito sa lalawigan. Mao ni bot nung gustong mahitabo unta sa pagpangutana sa atong OPSWD, kay ang iyang nahisgutan is kato naman nga paghumanas mga panghitabo, kato na mga kabatan-unan nato bitaw nga doon na mga salao, doon na tay shelter para nila ana, doon na tay counseling. Ang bota mong ipaabot lang unta ninyo katong prevention nga dili anta ang mga bata nato nga mahitabo susama niini kay dili lang pod ang mga classmates nila ang biktima kundi apil na pod ang ato ang mga teachers no kay ang mga bata nga moistorya karon sa tinud-anay lang unlimited sila mubuli sila mga classmates, bubuli sila mga teachers kay ang mga teachers usab karon dili basta-basta basag istorya lang pwede na ka makasuhan no inana ang mga panghitabo karon kay gani sa pagkakaron mutuo mo dili walay mga bata karon nga mga estudyante nga nakatilaw og buno sa mga erasure o mga chalk sa unang panahon sige kung kaigo ana pero karon mga panahon ano kining but lang ipasabot gikan sa ato ang mga tagsa-tagsa ka mga concern offices no unsay atong mahimo para sa pagpalambo pas mga bata nga mato pa safer and healthier unya kining ato ang mga prevention kanang dili na ni mahitabo pag-usab pa ma'am okay thank you.
Pwede ba mo tubag, sir, no? So,
Yes.
if I may, akong gisgutan ganihan natin, Provincial Council on the Protection of Children. Every year, naana sila dili not every year, but na child representatives. So every year gyud since pa natukod ang Provincial Council on the Protection of Children, we all nga nangapil na artos mga LG bitaw kana bitong mga leaders sa ilang eskwelahan. So from there kana na sila moy gitagaan sila capacity building unya sila na poy mohatag og mga prevention measures dito sa ilang mga schools as leaders in every school kay nag-represent man na sila sa mga eskwelahan sa provincial level o sa city. So natin mga ingon ana sir prevention measures na siya. Aside from the one that I shared ganina nga reactive na to nga naatay mga shelters in the event nga naay mga bata nga makasala sa balaod. So mao lang po na siya. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Don. What nila pangutan na Sir Edwin? Next, yes, we have Sir Ma'am Gina Panyo.
Good morning. My question goes to Attorney Maquinano. Attorney, from a legal standpoint, what are the clear-cut liabilities of school administrators, parents, and minors themselves when violent incidents or severe bullying happens on school grounds?
Okay, ma'am. So let's discuss first RA 9344, or the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act of 2006. Whenever a minor ages 15 years and below commits a crime, they are exempted from criminal liability as per the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, but they will be subjected to an intervention program. Children ages 16 years, diversion proceedings, but if they do not qualify for diversion proceedings, or if both parties, meaning the complainants and the accused, or the CICL, sorry, not accused, did not agree to a diversion program, then such CICL will undergo the regular judicial proceeding, meaning he or she will have to undergo preliminary investigation and be tried in court. Okay. With respect to, just a summary lang, no, so that if you have further questions, you can ask further later, ma'am, or for the other members of the media. For the school itself, the administrators and teachers, even if the minors are exempted from criminal liability because they are their ages are below 15 years old, or if they did not act with discernment, that does not mean that the civil liability is likewise extinguished. Because if we look at Article 2176 of the new Civil Code in relation to Article 2180 of the same Civil Code, the school, the administrators, and the teachers are vicariously liable, and they are jointly and solidarily liable with parents for those in favor of those they have injured, or in case there are commission of offenses in which civil damages are possible. However, when we if we make reasonable diligence, like for example, in the case of the shooting in Tacloban, if they employed proper security, tight security measures, or if there are kana bang siguro no kanang naa siguro checking of bags during and sa entrances sa mga school, that those are examples of exercising reasonable diligence, because that's the standard required under the law. There's no specific standard, but only there's no specific measures nga gi-impose sa atong Supreme Court as per law and jurisprudence. But the standard is just really reasonable diligence. As to what reasonable diligence is under the law, or what will qualify as reasonable diligence is under the law, that a reasonable, prudent man could have done in order to avoid the commission of those offenses. Okay, so was I able to answer the question, ma'am? Parents are, under the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, the parents are primarily responsible for the nurturing and the rearing of a child. No, that's given. Even if we don't talk about the law, that's given. Good. Parents are subsidiarily liable, civilly subsidiarily liable for any, and they will answer for any civil damages that are in which the minors will be possibly responsible. The school, teachers, administrators are jointly and solidarily liable with the parents. Okay? When we say subsidiarily liable under the law, we have to prove that the parents also did not exercise reasonable diligence in preventing their child from committing such, let's say, serious offenses or other acts which would result to quasi-deling. And then, jointly and solidarily liable na ang schools, teachers, and administrators with the parents. Okay? When we say jointly and solidarily liable, if the parents could not pay, then the school administrators and the teachers would likewise be civilly responsible. Responsible for civil damages. That's what we mean by jointly and solidarily liable. But that has to concur with the fact that the parents are subsidiarily liable. And we have to prove first that the parents did not exercise reasonable diligence. Again, reasonable diligence means what a prudent man could have done based on the facts and circumstances which could prevent the commission of a crime or acts which would result to quasi-delict. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Attorney. Next, we have Sir Giovanni Pelino. Pelino ni sir or Pelino? Okay. Welcome to the Capital Reports. Talagsan ako makakita ni sir.
Good morning. Giovanni Pilino from Radio Bandera, Talibon. My question goes to Police Colonel Christopher Fernandez of the PNP. Sir, human sa nahitabo sa Tacloban, kung sila may gihimo nga mga proactive measures sa BPPO, sa mga schools, doon na ba may mga coordination sa mga school authorities aron di na mahitabo dinhi sa Bohol ang nahitabo sa Tacloban?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Even before the incident of Tacloban, we have the program of Balik Eskwela. So, in that program, it was streamlined or nakalatag na dyan kung unsa ang mga security measures nga ipatuman, no? Before na mag-start ang school. So, if we notice during the opening of the schools na makita na to atong mga kapulisan sa mga kadalanan, sa tubangan sa mga eskwelahan nga nag-facilitate most practically or within the vicinity outside the schools. So, sa kinatibukan, aduna kita'y gibutang 84 nga police assistance desk all around Bohol, no? So di man punta ng eskwelahan sa probinsya nga makaya na to nga mabutangan tanan tungod sa kataghan sa ato ang mga eskwelahan, either it is primary, secondary, or tertiary level. So, we are deploying numbers of personnel, which is about more or less 170 personnel to man personally on the police assistance desk para to cater any security risk or to address any security measures with regards to same or possible same incident that may happen sa ato ang probinsya. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have Sir Dondi Delfino. Mayong buntag, Sir Dondi.
Okay, good morning Ma'am Janet. Good morning sa itong mga panelista. Ari ko mag-una ni Attorney Makinano. Siguro si Attorney may katubag ani. Good morning ma'am. Good morning Attorney. So, based on your discussion, 15 years old and below, they are exempted from criminal liability. Instead, they will undergo intervention program. So, akong question is, unsay may tabo during the intervention program and how long they will undergo this intervention program? Kay, as all we know, usas mga appeal sa dito sa Tacloban, he is 14 years old and he is exempted from criminal liability. And we all know that the CICL as of now nagkabata. So for the car, mga children at risk, at least makasabot sila. Unsay may tabo nila, attorney?
To be honest, sir, no, my experience with CICL, it's really only up to the proceedings in court. But whenever the CICLs are subjected to the intervention program, they are already handled by our the SWD or the Provincial Government, Provincial Social Welfare Development Office. So I think if it's fine with you, sir, it's best addressed to the representative of the Social Welfare Development Office.
Okay. So,
Okay, Ma'am Donna.
pwede ako ipasan mo, Ma'am Donna?
Okay. In terms of diversion, no, intervention programs, so appeal na siya sa intervention po sa mga bata, not only for the children but as well as the family. No, so dili lang na siya gihandle sa Provincial Social Welfare Office, but in the event nga mahitabo na siya adto na sa mga social workers na sa mga munisipyo. So unsa may mga intervention programs? For example, katong sa aton lang example lang to siya, no? So ato jung palawman ang ano man tong nahitabo. Because again, every behavior has meaning, no? So atong tugkaron, atong tan-awon, asa man dapita gagikan. So maybe na siya anger. So possibly appeal sa intervention is i-manage ang iyang anger, no? So if ever makita nato nga dysfunctional pud ang family, siguro nagdako siya. Example na nagdako siya in a violent community, in a violent pamilya. So i-appeal po to siya as interventions. Not only the child, the family, as well as the community. Because whether we like it or not, ibalik raman po na siya, i-reintegrate raman po. So mo na yung mga steps nga himuon na to. So not only sa social welfare office lang, team man na siya, no? So sa Barangay Council for the Protection of Children, naapoy interventions. Sa local po, sa Municipal Social Welfare Office, naapoy interventions. Kung magkinahanglan jud siya og therapy, because social workers are generalist. Dili man siya maingon nga mag-counseling lang po. So, kung kaya nga naatay itap nga mga psychologists to do the therapy sessions, so i-appeal po na siya, no? So, dili na siya overnight lang, no? Masing makaingon ta nga, okay na to. So, dili man pod kay punta sa cybercrime division. So, ingon, taas nga siyang maproseso. So, depende po na siya, whether or not, 6 months na ba atong interventions up to kanus aman siya. So, ingon, siya, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, next question, alila ko ni Police Lieutenant Colonel Fernandez. So, pagbalik eskwela, sir, nakita na to, police visibility is visible. But after Tacloban, ang police visibility must be visible siya. Kay base sa akong observation, bisan sa mga school nga tuwa dito sa Hilit is na may maabot nga mga patrol car, mga police magpakita dito. So, mao na nakaingon kung must be visible. Ang question ako, sir, is until when inyong buhaton? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So, this program shall be sustained. No? So, although there are priorities, there are activities nga uban kabahin sa ato ang function sa police, but more or less kasi in the instance na mo na siya nahitabo karon, di man tanan nga eskwelahan atong mahatagan, but we are focusing on information, di ba? So atong itanaw karon kung kinsay pinakadaghan og daghan nga mga population nga eskwelahan or mga doon ay mga kanabang na mga previous related incidents nga may ngana, siguro o gatong mahinumduman di man lang kay kanang shooting lang incident nga hitabo sa usa ka schools. Doon naman may mga pangitabo sa una nga mga, di ba, natay na hinumduman sa una nga doon ay mga grupo, di ba? Ani mga gang sa eskwelahan, dani mga grupo nga nagkadaiya nga nag-away-away niya atong mahitabo sa eskwelahan or di sa gawas. So mo na itong gitan-aw nga gi-scan na to ang mga eskwelahan kung kinsay nanginahanglan, masanginahanglan o angay butangan og to ang police assistance desk para ma-priority na to ba. So, but more or less, as much as possible, kaya naman sa ato ang mga kapulisan nga makasuroy, no? Dili man ingon nga kada adlaw nga makaadto sa mga eskwelahan, but more or less, siguro once a week o twice a week ang ato ang mga kapulisan dapat makaadto gyud sa mga eskwelahan sa ilahang area of responsibility. Gani gimando sa ato ang Chief of the Philippine National Police nga dapat ang police is mutambong sa ipahigayon nga flag raising ceremony. That is only a very simple gesture of police presence na during flag raising ceremony ang nag-raise ng flag, ang nag-lead ng lupang hinirang is ang police or panumpa sa watawat. That is a gesture in which na magpakita ang support ng atong kapulisan sa ato ang mga schools. So again, we will sustain as much as possible that the Bohol Police Provincial Office in this program. So kaya naman ang sa amin ang sa mo lang is we have to monitor and consistently advise our personnel to sustain the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Next, we have Sir Loloy Tutas. Sir Loloy, maayong buntag kanimo. Welcome to the Capital Reports.
May buntag sa tangnam minaw, Ma'am Janet, may buntag. Diya sa lamisa, Sir ug Ma'am, may buntag ninyo. Pangutanan ako akong ipaabot sa legal officer sa Department of Education, Bohol. Sir, sa imong kasinatian sa pagpangalagad sa maong departamento, existido na ba? Buot na ko ipasabot, wapay kagubot, pero naa na ang protocols. Naabay paagi sa DepEd nga kanang gitawag og comprehensive reporting. Akong itinaw, ang ginikanan, kuhaan og remark sa iyang bata, tapukon sa oskilahan. Ang PTA, mautanaw sa mga bata, tapukon gihapos lamisa sa oskilahan. Ingon man ang mga magtutudlo fakulty uban pa tapukon gihapon. Sa inyong bahin, maayo ba sir nga hiusahon ang tanang komentaryo parang masayran kung kinsay medyo init og ulo nga bata, kinsay bata nga dili kaya pasiawan kay og masuko labaw na, ug kinsa putong mahiligon og pasiaw nga sinugdanan sa kagumot mursil tagdumot. Naa ba na karong panahon na, sir?
Okay, sir. Good morning, first of all. Existing naman na siya, sir, nga mga protocol. Labi na gyud sa class advisor or homeroom advisor level. But if we are going to talk about this data, naamangod po na siya yung mga privacy concerns. Busa, atong gi-intensify pod karon ng atong mga guidance offices or services, although kuwangan pagyud taong mga registered guidance counselors, kay part man ni sa ilang trabaho nga magather og mga data bahin ingana sa mga behavioral mga problems ba. Gitapok ni siya and then gi-address man ni siya sa eskwelahan. Or even kung ang eskwelahan kay wala pa man gyud tay igong registered guidance counselor sir sa DepEd, as far as I know, if I'm not mistaken, for the entire DepEd Bohol, murag na aray unom gyud ka registered because it is difficult to have RGCs kay taas kayo ang ilang qualification para mahimong registered. First of all, dapat master's degree sila daan usa maka-board. Busa na atay gitawag og mga guidance designates nga gitrain po na sila sir. And then in coordination with the grade level, class advisor or homeroom advisor, kani nga mga reporting mechanisms naaman na siya, sir. Gi-address na siya sa eskwelahan. Ug naagi yung mga concerns nga medyo grabe na, ang ato ang guidance services or guidance counselors are extending counseling sessions to address these specific behavioral issues of particular school children.
National issue ba, sir, sa tanang tunghaan nga naagyo ng counselor?
I am speaking of DepEd Bohol, dili pa ta kompleto gyud, sir, og RGC matag eskwelahan. I think we have 1,343 schools under DepEd Bohol, and I know there are only about 6 siguro nga RGCs. So what we do, if there are learners' rights and protection concerns or naay mga bata nga kinahanglan gyud og counseling, what we do is we request aning atong mga RGCs nga naay gyud specific station or school naka-assign nga i-deploy nato adto asa ninyo, ma'am and sir, kaning eskwelahan, bikay naay mga issues related to the behavior of the child nga dili na kaya i-handle og guidance designator or iyahang advisor. Kay kinahanglan sa eskwelahan, as much as possible, amo gyud na siyang pasanon hangtod mahuman gyud siya og eskwela.
Bahala di mausab ang batasan.
Well, we are trying to correct the behavior, sir, but we cannot assure 100% correction. Kay ang pagpadako sa bata is not the sole responsibility of the school. First of all, magtubod magyud na sa ilahang balay.
Ari ko ni attorney sa PAW, attorney Palihog.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Sa legal issue, disciplinary is good. Mutuo ba ka, attorney, mapasiyaw o dili, nga nay ubang mga bata, nga dili na madutlan og tambag, kay na ako na ilang gisaligan nga di nahikusian. Nay gisaligan nga di na iputukan. Naabay disiplina, ana, attorney, kundi ni mo kusion. Palihog, attorney.
Yes. You know, that's a very sensitive question, actually. It's a very sensitive issue nowadays. Now, I had my talk with one of the, where ato dito sa, the audience are teachers and members and faculty and staff of San Jose Talibon National High School. I was their resource speaker for their GAD activity. And one of their questions, or I think it was a sentiment of majority of the teachers nga maglisod na gyud sila instill og discipline nowadays because of in light of the kanang trend karon kintahay no nga where parents would readily easily resort to social media and filing of cases against school teachers and administrators and the school itself for infliction of physical harm. But if I look at it from a legal point of view, good sir, no, under RA 7610 or the Protection of the Child Welfare Act, no, corporal punishment is really prohibited. So when we say, if I interpret corporal punishment, it means excessive physical punishment against the child. But the problem nowadays is that if we look at RA 7610, favorable manggod tanan manggod nga mga provisions under this law are very favorable to the child. Nga gamay lang siguro nga physical abuse, you could easily file a child abuse case. That's what I told them. There's no stopping for the parents to actually file a case for physical, emotional, psychological abuse against the child, and that's really, really possible. Okay? But I told the teachers, you could also defend it. Ma-defend magyun mo siya, no? Because RA 7610, it's very important that for you to be convicted of such crime, you should have used or you should have took advantage of the fact that the child is a minor, that you had to demean, debase, degrade the integrity and welfare of the child. Gigamit nimo, in other words, in Visayan, gigamit nimo ang pagka-inosente sa usa ka bata to inflict any emotional, physical harm. So if it was, I'm not saying because we are on media, Rabano. I'm not saying that we condone physical inflicting of physical harm, because that's not also the way to instill discipline upon a child. In my own personal point of view, no. But if the teachers or school administrator did not intend to debase, degrade, demean the worth and the integrity of the child in possibly disciplining a pupil or a student, then he or she will not be liable for RA 7610. That's just the standard, okay? Kanang wala nimo lahi magud taga na to very specific example, no. Let's say you know that the child is kanang hilumon, manggiuwawon, very vulnerable. As a class advisor, for instance, you took advantage of that vulnerability, the shyness of the child, nga imo siyang pakauwawan in front of the classmates in instilling discipline. You could possibly be liable under RA 7610 because it was deliberate on the part of the school teacher, having known the facts and circumstances that your student is like this and like that. Okay? But siguro in another case, I was able to encounter a case when I was still assigned in RTC Carmen, where the school teacher was eventually acquitted for having inflicted a physical harm against the student, unya dalang pakauwaw pa psychological harm. But the teacher in that case, although it's still with the RTC, because there can still be remedies that could be availed up to the Supreme Court by certiorari, not by appeal, because acquittal, you cannot appeal it. The decision of the then presiding judge who penned that decision said that the infliction of such physical and psychological harm was a response to was a response to the behavior of the child at the time to prevent further harm to the other students. Okay? Nakita ang difference between the deliberate and something that is more reactive to prevent further harm. But that, I told the teachers and the members of the staff of that school where I was resource speaker, that you could raise it as a defense. Ang problema, mafailan na lagi pod. Kay dali-dali ragid na. But I think that's already addressed by the DOJ or the Department of Justice, no, because they raised the standard of whether or not a person can be charged in court, because it used to be probable cause lang, no? Probable cause pasabot posible bang masadaan gyud nga ta, or posible bang criminally liable gyud siyang tawhana. Then you could already be charged with a case before court. But now, DOJ raised the standard from probable cause to reasonable certainty of conviction. Meaning, nitaas na ilang standard. Nga, if you look at the evidences, standing alone, could it already possibly secure a conviction? Then dili na, if the answer is no, then the teachers would not be criminally liable, or they would not be charged before the court. Did I answer your question,
Okay,
sir?
Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you, Attorney. Thank you, Sir Loloy. Next, we have Sir Bruce Sabala. Maayong buntag, Sir Bruce. Okay.
Good morning to our panelists, Bruce Sabala, DVTR and Audible. I would like to media. Any of our panelists may answer the question.
May I answer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so one of my colleagues happened to post an opinion in social media regarding the ban of social media following the Australian model. Okay, we don't have that yet here in the Philippines, but I tried to study and research the Australian model in preparation for today's event. And based on what I have gathered from my reading last night, the Australian model actually bans social media access to minors ages 16 years and below. Yes, but the regulation and the prohibition is not dili sa tanan nga social media access, only to some social media sites which they think possibly are harmful to the minors. But ang nakanindot sa Australian nga model is that the responsibility to prohibit or to regulate is not vested upon the parents or the minors, but it's heavily the social media, unsay tawagan, di ba ko kayo techie, the owners or the one who makes the social media, the developers of the social media are the ones being fined and penalized by the Australian government if they fail to prohibit and regulate this sentiment could reach. I think that's a very good tool because in my own personal point of view, the recent happening in Tacloban, I think was heavily influenced by access to social media. Ako na lang ni i-share ka basig walay makapangutana later on. I happened to be able to talk to one of the members of the technical working group who was really an advocate for the passage of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act back in 2006. Ang history ani nga law, no. Supposedly, because prior to the enactment of that law, ang age of criminal exemption from liability is ages 9 years old sa atong old nga revised penal code. No. But because of the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, ni saka na siya to 15 years old. But the original bill that was actually proposed in the House of Representatives, and Jose de Venecio was then the Speaker of the House of Representatives at that time, was actually 12 years old and below. But when it reached the Senate, manggod, naglisod sila o come up yun sa proper nga age of criminal responsibility. And because it was certified as urgent, murabag ka nang i-accept na lang to nga 15 years old, no? So, having said that, siguro, maybe, and because at that time, social media, I'm saying this because at that time, social media is not yet prevalent, diba? So maybe, I don't know if the social workers will agree though, maybe it's also about time to revisit our Juvenile Justice Welfare Act to take into account the prevalence also of social media nowadays and the exposure of minors to a lot more factors which would increase criminal delinquency.
Okay, thank you. Can I still ask
Yes.
one question
Yes,
to
of
another
course.
panelist? At ako ning address ron sa atong PNP, no? Nasuta ang magyud sir nga there was a duplication no sa serial number sa kadtong firearms nga nagamit sa mga assailants. Could you somehow give us information or updates as to unsa lagi buhat sa PNP regarding that kanang problemaha o nya unsa yung mga possible ninyo nga sanctions regarding sa mga involved ka or responsible atong mga duplication sa serial number sa firearms?
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is that would be under the CSU, the Civil Security Unit in the BNP. But nonetheless, as we have known or seen in social media, na doon ay information with regards to duplication of firearms. So, if it is a juridical firearms, maybe the concerned agencies or juridical entity have liabilities with regards to the said. If it is proven that there is a duplication of such that case. So again, with regards sa nangitabo, gani doon na naigihimo ang si issue sa atong probinsya with regards sa katong incident with kabahin atong firearms. So naay mga firearms nga gi-revisit karon gitan-aw kung doon ay ba possibly nga duplication sa kabahin sa maong hitabo.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Bruce. Next, we have Sir Sindoy Hingging. Morning, Kap.
Thank you, Ma'am Janet. Good morning sa atong mga panelist. Kung address niya akong pangutana ngadto sa atong public attorney's office. Ma'am, kining dunay sugyot si Senator Robin Padilla nga may tungod sa juvenile justice law human nahitabo tong dito sa Tacloban. Sa imong paminaw o imong opinion, ngayon na ba nga amendahon ang maong juvenile law, justice law pagkakaron?
Okay, thank you for that question, sir. No, please note lang nga this opinion of mine is purely a personal opinion, and I do not represent the opinion of the public attorney's office. Okay, so like what I have said earlier, sir, the enactment of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, it was way back 2006 po, no, because somehow magod there was a pressure pod because we are a signatory to the United Nations Convention of the Rights of Child, and also the Riyadh Convention and the Dubai Convention, I think, if I'm not mistaken, not Dubai, but the Riyadh, where there is imposition of a higher criminal age of responsibility. But like I said earlier, at that time, since it was still in 2006, the prevalence of social media and other factors were not yet di pa kayo grabe as opposed to now. So in my own personal point of view, I think that it's high time to revisit and make possible amendments to the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act. Although it was already amended by during the time of President Pinoy, no, but there was no amendment with respect to the age of criminal responsibility. But I think it's, in my own personal point of view, given the prevalence of social media, I think it's high time to revisit so that the members of Congress and Senate could also research more and support the possible lowering. Dapat supported po siya by empirical data, no? Because I understand that there is a public outrage due to the incident in Tacloban, no? Nga gusto kita i-lower ang age of criminal responsibility. But amending national legislations, I believe, should not be because of, as a result of very emotional scenarios and very kanang rare cases, because it would also be disproportionate to the good that the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act is actually seeking. Because basig nalimtan, no, nga murag wa kayo na to na emphasize in today's discussion nga the purpose really of the Juvenile Justice Program is to reintegrate our minors back to society. Pero kasabot mi sa outrage, no, nga nakapatay god, nakaingana, no, but an example lang good, sir, kay I like giving actually examples, no, because I think that it would give us more visualization as to what we're trying to say, good. So, katong ako nakastorya earlier who talked to me about the history of the enactment of Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, niingon yun, when they visited, before the enactment of the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, ang nahitabo is our minors, they are also detained alongside adult prisoners or PDLs. And you know, that person was able to talk to a 10-year-old minor, and she asked him, kanandong in Tagalog though, what do you want to become in the future? Kaya mo sa gito pag sa minor, luoy gid kayo niya siya. I want to be a mayor. But kabalo mo unsa nga mayor ihang gusto. Gusto siya mahimong mayor sa selda. Because that's his environment. That's what he is influenced man, di ba? That's how he is surrounded. But that's a 10-year-old, di ba? As a parent, that's why I told in my opening statement, we should be able to answer very difficult questions by the end of this discourse, because I don't think that lowering the age of criminal responsibility will solve criminal delinquency alone. Like I said, we should address the roots. That would mean addressing parental guidance, discipline. Magsugod magyud na sa balay. We know it, di ba? The teachers, schools, and administrators are only substitute parents. And that's if the parents, the teachers, school, and the teachers have custody over the students. But if they don't have custody over the students, balik yun na dito sa family gyud, di ba? Ako, sir, I have been handling CICLs for many, many years gyud. And if you really look at the social case studies which are prepared by our social workers, maluoy gyud mo sa background. And you cannot blame them actually for having committed such offense. Kay luoy gyud kayo ang ilahang family background. Maybe the public could not really understand it that much because you have not been in the field. But for us, who are actually handling them, we do not condone their acts. But again, let's not forget the purpose of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, because we are trying to give the minors a chance at being rehabilitated, because they are likewise victims of circumstances also, okay? But of course, we're not saying that we're erasing accountability, okay? That's why I'm saying that there might be a need to revisit the Juvenile Justice Welfare Act, maybe the lowering of age of criminal responsibility in light of the prevalence of social media and the modern times na gyud. But not to erase
Okay, good morning once again. So, in terms of ani nga topic, sa atong mga children in conflict with the law, we always see to it that they are given second chances. So, sa kinabuhi naman dyan, ikaduha, ikatulong mga chance for these children. Because we believe there is no such thing as a bad person or a bad boy, but only bad environment, bad example, and bad thinking. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you, Ma'am Donna. So there goes another episode of the Capital Reports. Daghang kayong salamat sa atong Bohol Media, sa atong mga bisita karong adlaw, sa nga ni Sir Atoy Kosap, kinainyong tingog sa kababaynan. Maayong buntag, salamat sa Diyos. Abante, Bohol.